anyone who saw David Bowie's Diamond Dogs had more to go on than me. I say more because when a child is deceived as to their own significance and importance, the people around him may not be. They might understand and have a sense of proportion about his father's too good position, to put it in Miles Kirshner jingoism, in publication history. Whereas the child who is sensitive and has been subject to ego slaughtering and cruel attacks defends himself by saying that that couldn't possibly be about me. That would be, I'm not important enough. And the world would make sense to them in that way, because they're told they have no importance and they shouldn't be elevated to such importance. And they're just, after all, Pittsburgh public school child who's gone deaf and therefore has no real future and has to get used to the idea. Now, if sound mental health and Yoko Ono want to persist with Seattle Art Museum, which no doubt they do, I think I should be in position to recapitulate a few issues. One of them is, despite the fact that I had shown that Mount Desert Island was exceedingly suspicious, that Earth First Nazi celebrating Joseph Goebbels openly is not a logical candidate to represent the NAACP and the Jewish Defense League in a case just because some Wiggler from England says virginity proves rape of all the illogical ideas that they could force feed a victim of torture. They programmed the situation to justify it by saying John Lennon needs to be avenged. And this continued after all their murders and thefts, after poisoning the mouth in an ounce of COVID. They poisoned me in the mouth in an ounce of COVID. They did kill Circe Kennedy too. These vibrant jackals, these back-rippering vampires, these back-ripper stabbers who call themselves Amnesty International, if you can believe it, made a war game out of infecting people. They did. They made a game out of infecting people and claimed to be representing the people who were victims, when in reality, they were the ones who did it. This was one of the things that began to concern me, to look at possibilities other than just it was revenge for John Lennon. And it slowly came to light that it wasn't revenge for John Lennon. It was revenge of John Lennon. That he was in on it and pulled a Lennon Houdini, a Hollywood Houdini. If they want to persist in the idea, murderous, insane war game that Seattle Police Department has tolerated and evidently, in fact, thought up with the psychopath Jay Inslee. If they want to continue with this, they better be prepared for the possibility that there's one of us who doesn't buy the idea that JFK was killed to punish him for being behind the AIDS attack because of his libertinage. The joke is on him. Because of his Casanova status, he deserved it. And he's the false leader of the people who they should chew carpets bare for Prince Thorles. That was the eternal flame boils our oceans, because that's where we're all going if we follow JFK, into the eternal flames of the boiling oceans. So you listen to Thorles, and you listen to sound mental health, and you listen to Yoko Ono, and you do what they say and give them anything they demand or desire. And these were the people who made such a stink out of a Japanese woman's virginity that they lit up Kuwaiti oil fires and called it the perfect storm because it catheterized the bad will of Cynthia Lennon. This is the idiotic tabloid masterpiece of Salman Rushdie and George Bush in Trumpy tune, behind the scenes in the nut house they call American media, New York Times, the New Yorkers, Harper's Magazine. Louis Lapham was in on the whole thing. He couldn't simply say, there's a deaf child of a humanist. That is suspicious. We have to intervene and investigate properly with American journalism. He couldn't just say John Schulman has a ripoff going at Carnegie Museum. He couldn't just say this was a violent, pedophile, pornographic Japanese corporation kicking the doors down and with weapons, kidnapping an honors student. He couldn't say that. He had to say something ridiculous like what had become of the president's senses and project on me the tabula rasa of infinite majesty. He's an idiot. He's a psychopathic idiot. Or he was in on it and helped orchestrate the whole thing with his dopey, pseudo-solemn, Ouspensky, flippy-tune Wiggler consciousness about tell them a cautionary tale. And you have Walker Percy writing to me from Harper's Magazine. Walker Percy writing to me, beware the delectations of despair. So Sound Mental Health wants to delectate some more despair. Is that it? Well, I got news for you. There's at least one of us who doesn't think JFK is to blame for all this and don't think the libertinage deserved to be punished with a needle from the Axis authorities of the parochial nut house of Tojo and Tojo Ronin. Sean Lennon betrayed his father as a popular figure of consciousness by going the road of Gregory Carl. Gregory Carl's slanders towards JFK were meant to create the idea that Lennon was the good guy in the war of sex with AIDS, and Jimmy was the bad guy because he could have saved John Lennon. And that nonsense has gone on and on and on and on, feeding the fires of oil wars, Bush, Colin Powell, and now the boiling oceans. And you want to keep it up. You want to keep it up. You want to scramble for every penny. Sean Lennon is a sick, sick nobody. He's the sick nobody I thought I was.